영권
골입니다. 공동입니다. 공동이 역전을 만듭니다. 2점의 자유를.
Winners of the AFC Champions League 2020, Ulsan Hyundai.
You're listening to the K-League United podcast, proud partner of Football Nation Radio.
Hello, 안녕하세요. Ryan Walters in the daytime TV edition of the K-League United Bunker. And it's a K2 special this week. I guess I've kind of let the cat out of the bag early there. And I am joined by the only man that can talk about K-League 2 along with me. It's Michael Redmond.
Hello, good afternoon, everybody. It's normally good evening, but
it is. Not today, because as it feels like always is the case now, there are some K-League games going on tonight, Tuesday night, as we record live here for those of you watching on social. Hello, greetings. Maybe eventually we'll be able to do these things at night again, but I'm kind of happy to have this one during the day because I'm pretty amped up after last night, as you might figure. We got a lot to talk about there, but you also had an interesting night. You were out in Bucheon for the game, and then what happened?
Yeah, well, for those who follow me on Twitter, you probably saw a little bit of what was going on. I live an hour and 20 away from the stadium, and I finished work at 6 p.m. So if you do the math, I had a 10-minute gap between getting there and the game started. I paced it from where I started, and I was going to Seoul Station, but I thought, no, there's another transfer earlier. So I was bolting through about 3 or 4 transfer stations, sweat dripping down me, people looking at me strange, like, what's wrong with him? Is he okay? And I finally made it there with 5 minutes before kickoff. Don't ask me how I've done it, but I managed to jump on earlier trains that weren't even supposed to be on the timetable. It was, but the thing is, that's the 4th time I've done it because Bucheon love night games. So
they do, yeah. And you got to sit in those temp stands there, which Soliland used to have, and now Bucheon do have. You were saying that was a little bit jealous there.
Yeah, you tweeted me last night asking how was it, and I literally just thought jealousy basically because we had them. Soliland had them, and we had to get rid of them because of the track issue at the Lowell Park, but to have a temporary stand in the stadium is just miles better than sitting away from it all.
Yeah, it's pretty nice. I've only done press at Bucheon because the stands were closed last year for most of the season, and it's a little far away and it's off to the side, so it's not necessarily my favorite. I want to sit in those stands and catch a match, which maybe I'll do next time the Dragons are in town because I should use their full title. It's like A Tribe Called Quest. You have to use the full thing. The first place Jeonnam Dragons, the league leaders Jeonnam Dragons, and that's all we're going to talk about today because again, K1 is coming thick and fast. Ulsan Jeonbuk is happening this week again. The preview for that is on kleague.com. We couldn't quite fit in a Matt versus Dan conversation, and also that's got a shelf life of about a day. So eventually when Ulsans and lets us all down this week, then we can talk about that on the next podcast. Not that that's what's going to happen, but it's probably what's going to happen.
It's probably going to happen, to be honest. I can't believe it really looking the way, we'll talk about it later, but obviously the way the season with first and second place is going is it's different, but it's quite comical.
Yeah, it's something else in K1. And that's why today we're focusing on K2, because the season is, roughly a third finish. I say it's the third finish because we're through round 12 in a 36-round season. But because of a COVID outbreak, not every single team has played 12 rounds. But you know what? For the podcast's sake, we're calling it a third of the season done. So we're going to talk about round 12 that just wrapped up last night, Monday night here in Korea. And Michael and I are each going to name our biggest surprises and disappointments of the season so far. And I don't know how much we'll be talking about our teams there. And then we do have a few questions in the Ulji Luis mailbag. And if you have any questions as we're going throughout the show, then just go ahead and get those into the comments. But Michael, let's go ahead and get started. Let's talk about round 12. At the end of round 12, we'll talk about it with the end of round 12 at the end of round 12. Let's get into this. Let's start with the only match that took place on Saturday. It was Gimcheon Sangmu 1, Daejeon Hana Citizen 1. Daejeon had the lead from the 26th minute here, and then Cho Gyu-sung showed up and equalized in the 90th. Is either team really going to feel great about this one?
Well, you never want to lose in a 90th minute, and I think Dejan are going to feel absolutely horrible to concede so late in the game. Yeah. And actually, looking at Dejan now, they haven't won in 5 games. Mm-hmm. They needed to win, and especially against Gimcheon, because we all think how they can be as a team when they're all playing together. But to lose it in the dying seconds of the game just says a lot about Daejeon as a team. They're dropping down.
Yeah, like you say, a bit concerning there, especially because they really did need that win. They were sitting top of the table for a little while before Anyang overtook them, but like you say, the draw makes it 5 winless with 2 losses in there as well. So just like 2 or 3 wins strung together can get you up the table quickly in K2, a prolonged losing streak like this will bump you down. But they're not too far off. They're only 4 points off of Jeonnam for the lead right now. They're still in a playoff position, which I think honestly is probably the goal for Daejeon this year. So as we're looking at things a third of the way through the season, again, we'll get into like the overalls a little bit more, but I don't think Daejeon's doing too bad. But yeah, it's never going to feel good to concede in the 90th. But Cho Gyu-sung, I think that was kind of the takeaway for me in this one, is that Gimcheon, who I'll be talking about later, they're not clicking. They're not doing everything that we expected them to do, but they're starting to get there. Gu Sung-yoon was in net for this one, which I think will be a big difference for them because their statistics would suggest that they're better, but they're not there yet. And I guess that was kind of this match overall, just like, oh, these teams should be better.
Yeah, no, definitely. You'd expect maybe even some more goals in it with the strike force that both teams have. You look at Gimcheon and say they are getting better, but then the question has to be asked, is it a little too late for them now? Because we are a third into the season now. However, we say it every week I'm on the pod, it's so tight at the top up there at the K-League 2. It probably still doesn't matter, to be honest. Like, I know the next game for Eland is Soliland and Ansan, and whoever wins that's overtaking Daejeon, because I think we play before they do. I think they play on Sunday. However, they are playing Bucheon, a team that's only had 1 win so far this season. So maybe Daejeon can get out of this little rut that they have at the moment. Not a rut as such, but, maybe finally get a W on the board. Yeah,
well, they'll be looking for one. Let's move on to the Sunday results. Again, there was only 1 game because Busan Park and Cheongnam Asan was postponed. That is the last match for Cheongnam Asan that'll be postponed, by the way. They will be able to play this upcoming weekend. So the schedule is going to start to look a little bit more normal, and it hasn't been finalized yet, but the games in both K1 and K2 that have been delayed might be played during the international break, which I think would make a lot of sense because K-League 1 is on a break for a very long time for ACL, so that might make sense. Anyway, on Sunday, the former league leaders, FC Anyang, were held scoreless, and they lost 1-0 to Gyeongnam FC. Kim Dong-jin getting the winner in the 52nd minute for that one. Michael, is Gyeongnam going to do this thing? It was their 3rd win in 5.
Oh, it's the same as last season, isn't it? They started off so slow, and now they're just firing back on all cylinders. And obviously, as you could tell, I am over the moon about it. But
all of us in K2 are super excited about Gyeongnam finding form.
Yeah, I just think really with Gyeongnam, it's 2 years in a row now they started slow, but they've probably once again got themselves, I don't know, maybe in summertime they just switch it on, and it's adding excitement for neutral fans, but for me, I'm getting a little bit worried again. So
yeah, well, we'll see how they go. I mean, again, they're going to have to string a few results together for me to get truly worried. They're on 14 points right now, which is only 3 off of 4th place and a playoff spot, and we know what they can do in the playoffs. So we'll see how it goes, but good news for them, for the oldest side in K2, which I will remind folks of there. But it looks like they're starting to come good a little bit. And Anyang, I think Anyang getting shut out is just showing what K2 continues to be, man. I mean, you just... If there are folks out there betting on K2, you are a braver human being than I. Because we watch this league every single weekend, and Anyang goes out there... They just keep winning. They look like world beaters. Well, maybe not that great, but then they just go out there and they don't even score at home against Gyeongnam. So you never know. And it was the 2nd loss in a row for Anyang. So now they're starting to fall, just like Daejeon did before them. So K2 continues to be wild in that regard. But do you think that this is a cause for concern for Anyang? Or was that just a purple patch? No pun intended with their colors.
Well, for me, this season, it seems to have a little bit of a theme and a pattern with the teams. They go to first, they spend 2 or 3 games there, and then they just plummet down again. So Leland, plummet down. Daejeon, plummet down. Anyang, plummet down. And even look at Cheongnam Asan when they were in the playoff position. Now they're back down to 9th. Obviously, they've not had games to play.
Right.
They're 3 games behind. However, if they win them 3 games, they could jump back up to 2nd place. So it's like teams are just yo-yoing left, right, and centre at the moment in the K-League 2. So once again, it's just adding the excitement as a neutral fan. For me, it's hurting me because I saw my team at the top and going down to the bottom. Not to the bottom as such, but pretty far down.
Well, let's move on and let's talk about your team. They were one of the 4 teams that played Monday night. There were 2 games on last night. And in the end, it took a late equalizer from Seoul Eland. Che Jae-hoon undid Krislan's first professional goal since 2018 was what our George Slade tweeted out there. And it was the first goal for Bucheon 1995, and I'm pretty sure 17 years in league play. It just feels like they have not scored a goal in forever. I mean, for Bucheon, just stopping the rot, and they've got 2 draws in a row now. It's maybe not the most exciting. The goal that they had, I thought was good. It was a tremendously powerful, well-placed shot from distance that the rebound fell to Krislan, and then he made no mistake from that close in, and you could see the relief on this man's face. It meant a lot to him to get that goal. But then Elan came back and got a point out of this. And for you, Michael, is that a point gained, or are these points dropped going to Bucheon and not getting a win?
Certainly, well, speaking to Seoul Elan fans, the way Seoul have been playing recently, I personally think it's a point gained because we've just not been firing on all cylinders. However, most Seoul Elan fans are saying it's points dropped, and especially against a side like Bucheon, who haven't scored in 2 months.
Yeah.
And ironically, the last team they scored against was Jeonnam Dragons in a 1-1 draw. So I just
one of very few teams to do so.
But yeah, they don't get me wrong. Bucheon played well. They played okay, but Seoul weren't fantastic last night. It was a very rough and tough game. There was a lot of tackles flying in, a lot of pushing, a lot of grabbing. At one point towards the end of the first half, there was actually a bit of a scuffle between the players. It was a wild game. There was not a lot of like individual skill. Leandro, once again, was fantastic. You know, I'm a big advocate of him, but he looked a bit on his own yesterday. There was nothing he could really do, and he was kind of like the balls were being fed to him, but there's nothing he could do. There's no one there up top to help him. For Seoul, Kim Jung-hwan came on in the second half, and he completely changed the game for Seoul. He raised the tempo. How he can't start is beyond me. He needs to start against Ansan. Also, looking at Seoul Eland, Noe Ian Jae had an injury, so he was out. So we had not a patched up back 4, but we had the likes of Koo Jae-hoon playing further back than normal, and he just looked a little bit out of his depth. Also, Jang Young-ho also out of the team at the moment. So the team's also a bit depleted as well. But yeah, 1-1. Good result for Bucheon, not so great for Seoul.
Yeah, we actually just got a comment in saying that Bucheon is the Sheffield/Schalke/Dijon of K2, and they should just be glad that it doesn't have relegation. And I would agree, because Bucheon are still bottom of the table despite the fact they've played 3 more games than Cheongnam Asan, who's ahead of them in 9th. So some silver lining there for Bucheon, but still not great for them this season. Let's move on to the other match that happened last night. The first place Jeonnam Dragons, as they are now. No, anyway, this game, you got something going on over there?
My apologies. I'm hearing noises here, and I don't know where they're coming from. So,
it sounds like a truck's backing up. Anyway, let's talk about this. Let's talk about the Jeonnam Dragons and their 2-0 result over the Ansan Greeners. This was a massive result for them, and on paper, I'm very, very happy with this. But when you look at the match and the way that things went down, I don't want to come on here and talk about VAR every single week. I don't. But this game, look, I'm excited. Obviously, I came on excited. I'm wearing my Dragons kit today. I'm excited that they're in first place. The result is great. It was great to see Lee Jung-ho get a goal. Hopefully he can get going. Balotelli continues to look good. Those were the goal scorers for the Dragons. But the takeaway in this was we're just getting beat over the head with VAR again and again and again. The penalty that Lee Jung-ho converted, there's a lot of contention there. I've heard that it was called a handball. I thought it was for a foul in the box. I still don't have any clarification on that one. The call itself, I can live with either way. It's just that we continue to have these 4-minute, 5-minute long VAR breaks, and at that point, like it's killing things. And that was I thought that one was bad. And then in the 30th minute, Chae-gun-ju for Ansan gets sent off with a direct red for a tackle where his foot comes up a little bit. It wasn't even a studs up challenge. His foot comes up a little bit, and his studs catch him. It's a yellow. I'm fine with a yellow. It's another one that takes about 20 minutes, and they come out and they give him a straight red. And how are we still getting these so wrong with so many views?
VAR this season, and we complained about it last season, but it just feels like VAR's this year has literally taken a completely different step. Like the referees, and if you think about it, the idea behind it's actually really good. Okay, we're going to have some referees thinking about it in the VAR room first, and if the referee wants to make his own decision, he can go and see it. But surely there should be a time limit. Like, okay, after 1 minute, after 1 minute 90 seconds, the referee in the VAR room can't decide. Referee has to go and make a decision himself. It's getting ridiculous. There was one at Eland last night. It wasn't too long. It was about 2-3 minutes long. But, it's just killing the excitement out of the game, to be honest. Yeah. And personally, because I was at Seoul last night, at Bucheon last night, I hadn't seen the tackles as such with Ansan. Mm-hmm. But if you're taking 5-6 minutes to decide a VAR decision, maybe it's been a straight red then.
Well, yeah, right. And then that wasn't even the last of it. Samuel got sent off in the second half for running, I guess. He shielded off of the ball, and there's a little bit of a collision there, and it goes to VAR, and he gets a second yellow and gets sent off. And it's just a farce at this point. It's got to go. It's got to go in its current iteration. Look, we all listen to a lot of podcasts. We all watch a lot of football. I've yet to hear anybody defending the current state of this. Like you were saying, they got to have time limits or something. And I don't even want to go much longer on it today because we talk about it every single week. But if you're going to have this separation where somebody's doing it remotely in a truck, then they get final say. If I see the ref go to their ear and sit there with their finger in their ear for 2 minutes, I'm going to kill somebody. And if you do that and then go over and watch the TV, you're wasting everybody's time. So if there are going to be experts in the truck, they're going to make those calls, then that's the final call. And that's how it goes. And they've, like you're saying, Michael, they got 60 seconds to do it. If they can't make a decision, then the call on the field stands. And that's what we've lived with for over 100 years. It's fine.
Yeah. And to be honest, I've actually just seen the tackle there now. I don't understand how that's a red card. I really, that is very, very, very harsh.
Anyway.
To spend 5 minutes making that decision?
Well, yeah, we've talked about this before. When you're sitting there looking at something for that long, you're looking for something to call against, and that's what's going to happen, and that is what happens. But anyway, let's not end on that note. Let's end on the fact that this is the fourth different team at the top of the table this season. Seoul Eland started there, then Daejeon Hana Citizen, then the Jeonnam Dragons, and FC Anyang. Now the Dragons are back up there for the first time since round 8, but as Michael was saying earlier, the top of the table remains extremely tight right now. FC Anyang are just 2 points off. Daejeon Hana Citizen are 4 points off, and the Ansan Greeners with one fewer match played are just 5 points off. And then there's the playoffs, which honestly everybody down to Cheongnam Asan still have a chance for, because Cheongnam have to make up 3 games. So pretty much everybody other than Bucheon is in contention for the playoffs right now. K2 remains delightful as ever. But we're going to take a really quick break, and then we're going to come back and we're going to talk about, again, not our season predictions because we're not that bold, but we're going to talk about the surprises and disappointments so far this season. We'll be right back.
FNR is a revolutionary football-dedicated digital platform, the first of its kind in Australia. It provides a 24/7 live online radio platform experience, podcast hub, and acts as a content provider for TV, radio, and digital. Having reached millions of listeners and football fans since launching, FNR is accessible worldwide via its website or app, providing a platform to discuss, debate, and celebrate the world game. We are your voice of football, FNR Football Nation Radio.
Welcome back to the K-League United podcast. I'm your host, Ryan Walters, and I'm joined by the one and only Michael Redmond.
Good afternoon, everybody.
And I mean that as both a compliment and the fact that it's just the two of us this week talking K2, as it should be. Paul was going to be here, but Paul's a busy man, and he's got the weekend preview coming up later this week. And mercifully, this is the last round of K1 midweek games until July. So I think, FC Seoul and Songnam are probably going to make up their matches, but it's got to stop. Anyway, daytime TV. Why not? So, Michael, let's get into this. I'll let you decide here. Do we want to start with the surprises, or do we want to start with the disappointments?
Let's go with the disappointments because we'll end on a nice little bright.
Yeah, let's end on a positive. I think surprises could be a negative, but I like the fact that you and I both clearly went positive with the surprises. All right, so let's get started with the disappointments. And which team, what do you have for the disappointment?
Well, there was two teams there that I was thinking about. However, you've got to look at Bucheon. You've got to look at Bucheon and go, what is going on there? Now, I'm a Seoul Illan fan. I've been a Seoul Illan fan for many years. I've been there. I've seen it. I've done it. I've bought the T-shirt. But I don't think we've ever been that bad that we've only scored 4 goals in 12 games.
Yeah.
12 games. 1 win, 4 draws, 7 losses. Now, it's almost embarrassing to come away from the Bucheon Stadium with a draw away from home.
Fair.
I just don't know what's going on. Look, Christian scored yesterday, but that makes him only the second player for Bucheon to score because Park Chang-jun's been scoring all the 3 other goals. Mm-hmm. It took the 12 rounds to have 2 goal scorers. What?
I mean, to me, this is one of those things, and we talk about this a lot. The table's got to open up at this point. I mean, look, I like Bucheon. I like the stadium. I like the way that the team was formed. But sentiment can't keep you in the second division at this point. You know, they need to have that threat of relegation, and we know that there are some quality teams in K3 that would be able to come up and take their position. And I think, and like you said, Michael, we've seen this for a long time with Seoul Illan. Luckily, Illan turned things around. They're now playoff contenders, potentially title contenders this year. But you can't always depend on teams to just do that. And as an American used to sports that don't have relegation, you can have teams like the Detroit Lions, for example, that just suck continuously. And they're not going to improve without that threat of relegation. And I think Bucheon, what do you even do from here? I don't know. So to me, I think that this is a situation where that threat of relegation really should be there for them.
Yeah, and like looking at Bucheon last night, the way they were playing, I mentioned it earlier, they're a very aggressive side. They like to pass the ball to each other. However, a lot of the time it didn't play off. Constant shouting from the sidelines as well, but like not even like professional shouting. They were just like the ball was lost and like screaming at each other. And I'm just like, this is not the way a football team should be talking to each other and communicating on the pitch. It was just a bit off. I was a bit surprised, taken back sometimes last night. I was like, oh, wow, this is how they do things here. They're just, I don't know, they're just not looking like the rest of the pack of the K2. The rest of the K2 look like they have glimmers throughout the season of doing great things. Bucheon like they're just going to get left behind.
Yeah, well, I mean, like we said, they already have. They're still bottom of the table despite the fact that Cheongnam Asan has played 3 fewer games. So that tells you all you need to know there. All right, let's move on to the other disappointment, the disappointment that I have because some idiot in the preseason show was like, Gimcheon Sangmu might not even lose a game. Oh Se-hoon could score 30 goals. I think I said 30.
30.
This team on paper looked like they could compete in K1. And yet here we are, a third of the way through the season, and that is true for Gimcheon. They've played all 12 of their matches so far. They are in 7th place on 16 points with all of 11 goals scored. They've been held scoreless 3 times. Their biggest margin of victory this season, 1 goal. Their biggest defeat, 4-0. This team, it just doesn't really make sense. And especially dug into their stats a little bit. They're averaging 61% possession. They're second in the league in shots. They lead the league in crosses. They have the most touches in the penalty area. How does that add up? So to me, they've also taken the most corners by far. They've taken 80 corners this season. The next closest team is Jeonnam with 63. So to me, what that says is that the pieces are in place. They are building. They're doing things the way that I think they want to. It's just that they don't have the clinical finishing that they need. And I don't know if that's just because the side keeps changing. I don't know if it's because they're the only military team now and they have to juggle a roster even more than they used to have to when the police team was around. But as we've talked about before, there have been some notable absences. It just, even with that though, they had those struggles last year and they also knew they were going to be relegated last year. And I just don't understand how largely the same team with some improvements thrown in can't put all that together, because again, if you look at this team on paper, they're there. They should be doing really well.
That's it. And, as you said, look at their average possession throughout a game. Teams are like just sitting back. Okay, do it. Do something to us. And they're just not finishing. Do you know what I mean? Their top goal scorers by 2 goals. They only have 2 goals each. Cho Gun-sung and Oh Hyun-gyu, sorry. My apologies, my mouth's a bit dry. But there's no out-and-out 4 or 5 goals by now that we expected in the season. Mm-hmm. And, what team beat them 4-0? So Leland beat them 4-0, yeah.
You had to check your notes on that one.
Yeah. I was out, that game was perfect. But it was one of them. It's just, if you could pick apart this team, if you could see and identify their weaknesses, teams are just going to there and drawing against them or beating them easily. So,
yeah, they have these momentary lapses where you're able to just absolutely obliterate them, as has happened. And, again, if it's not for a 90th minute equalizer, then they've lost another game over the weekend. So, I mean, we know that the summer signings always make a big difference for Sangmu. So I think, especially, again, Gu Sung-yoon is now in net for them. I think we'll start to see some of that consistency. And like we've said time and again, K2 is always close. It's close right now. They're 1 point off of a playoff spot. I still think they're going to be fine, but it has been a very, very disappointing start to the season for them.
Yeah. I also, I think a few weeks ago or before the season started, I made a point of saying, will they play with the same intensity? Because they're not in the K-League 1. They might actually go, do you know what? We were up there last season, now we're down here. Maybe they might not just have the same spirit, and that might be a reason why they're not doing as well as they thought.
It's a really good point, because a lot of the players that came in last year know that they're not going to be there for the full season this season, so they might just be thinking, well, let me just finish my time in K2 and I can get out of here and go back to my parent club. Don't know. Interesting. We do have, we've got some comments coming in on YouTube. I love this nickname, Pep Taehwan instead of Kim Taehwan. We'll always find an answer. Love that. Stealing that, using it in the future. Also pointed out that Ko Sung-bum could be a huge addition for Gimcheon. And I definitely think that's true. But Michael, I think, you might be onto something with the players that are K1 caliber just being like, let me just finish my time here and get out. Yeah. Who knows? But it's been disappointing. Let's move on. Let's talk about something that has not been disappointing. Let's talk about, and again, I love the fact that we both went for a positive surprise, even though the wording wouldn't lend itself to that necessarily. Who do you have as your surprise so far this season?
Well, begrudgingly, I've had to go with Anyang. Obviously, people who know me well know that I'm not a big FC Anyang fan. Obviously, I like Seoul Eland. There's a bit of friction between the two sides. But you can't, just a little, you can't bat away the way they've been playing this season. 12 games, 6 wins, 2 draws, 4 losses. They're currently sat second in the league. And this team last season were a shell of what they are now this year.
Mm-hmm.
Last year, they only had 6 wins all season. But don't get me wrong, there was only 27 games last year, but they're already matched the amount of wins they had last season compared to now. And we're a third of the way into the season. So they just know how to get the ball and score. When they played Seoul a few weeks ago in Lowell Park, I was getting shell-shocked. They were head and shoulders better than the Seoul Eland. They were firing on all cylinders. Seoul didn't know what to do with them. And I think if they continue to play like that, obviously they've had a bit of a dip now at the moment, but if they continue to play like, they are going to be in the playoffs.
Oh, for sure. And I think Pete's not here, so I'll talk about Meng Sung-eun instead, because I'm also a pretty big fan. This kid, he is just doing it right now. He is leading the league in defensive duels, and he's also leading in interceptions. Through 12 matches, 101 interceptions already. He's just doing a job for them, and I think when you've got somebody that can dominate the midfield in the way that he is, and the way that we've seen him do it, you're going to be in contention. I mean, and we were just talking about Cho Gyu-sung a little while ago. I don't know any way that he can actually stay at Anyang when Jeonbuk come calling, but I think Meng Sung-eun has made a really good decision to stay there in a system that he knows, and I think that he's shining through, and because of that, I definitely think that the team is shining through as well. And could you imagine Anyang if they had Cho Gyu-sung up top still?
Well, I'll tell you what, and looking at Meng Sung-eun as well, it just goes to show having someone in the middle of the park, literally controlling the field, what a difference it makes. Now, obviously, I've got to give a lot of credit to Nielsen as well. He's been excellent this season for
Fantastic
Anyang as well. So he is literally, he was good at the end of last season. I personally thought he's always been great personally, but at the end of 2020, he was really getting good game time and really, really defending well. But this season, he's killing it, in my opinion.
Yeah, very. We keep saying underrated. We obviously rate him, but it's one of those positions that I think is hard to have a post-match press conference about, But both of those guys are doing the dirty work and getting the job done. And I guess that's a perfect transition to talk about teams getting the job done with some dirty work. Let's talk about the league's best defense. Let's talk about the mighty Jeonnam Dragons, because they are actually my surprise this season. Despite what my heart tells me, which is that they are the best team in the world, I thought they'd be fighting for a playoff spot. I did not think that they would be in title contention a third of the way through the season and in first place for the second time. It's surprising mainly just because they have the second worst shooting accuracy in the league, despite being fifth in shots. They're very middle of the pack in scoring. They're only getting 45% possession per match. So they're kind of playing on the counter a bit, but they're doing this and they're here because they, again, have the league's best defense. Only 7 goals against, 6 clean sheets. We're 12 games in, 6 clean sheets. They are the league leaders in shots blocked, second in interceptions. Again, Meng Sung-eun is pretty much single-handedly owning that for FC Anyang, so that's why they're in first. They are the most accurate team crossing the ball in K2. They are third in touches in the penalty area. So in the TLDR version, the defense is quite good for the Dragons, and the attack just, I feel like they need some time to come around and gel, which is, again, why I'm not happy about Samuel getting that red card, which was ridiculous. And now he's out in the next 2 matches after he was just starting to get some fluidity up top. So that's going to be a bit tough. But Michael, is it surprising to you that the Dragons are up here?
Yes and no. Yes, because their goal scoring, we've said it, to a defensive team. They play very fantastic defensive football. However, no. No, because they were a K-League 1 team 2 seasons ago. So it's just one of them where it's like, maybe it's time they are to actually like go into a sixth gear and start doing things. I think with John, it's about time they actually start to go, look, we're here, let's do something about it. So
yeah, you ain't kidding. I mean, because I thought maybe they would be able to make an immediate bounce back. They have not. And it's one of those situations this year where Kim Da-sol, well, I'll say something nice about Kim Da-sol and say that he has filled in admirably and he's done quite well. We've seen him do well before as well with Suwon. Park Jun-hyuk is still personally my favorite. I'm a little surprised that he hasn't just taken over outright, which I would prefer, not only because I prefer him between the sticks, but also because Kim Da-sol seems to be in the Chae Young-eun school of goalkeepers, which is shrieking like a frightened pigeon from the back of the net. I don't know if anybody's heard the Daegu deer on the broadcast, but it's a lot to take in, and it's spreading. Apparently, this is a thing that more goalkeepers are doing. Don't like it.
Yeah, Kim Jong-min last night was a bit boisterous himself, and I was like, oh no, RT, we can't have another one.
I don't like it. So if you don't know what we're talking about, we've actually got one on our YouTube page that Lex shot for us, our videographer Lex, who actually just went out and filmed a brand new K7 club, Juego FC. You might remember El Juego from our days before. So we'll have that up and running soon. But anyway, those are our disappointments and surprises. That's a long-winded way to go around that. But man, K2, it's just nuts, and it's going to continue to be nuts. So that's where things are a third of the way through the season. We're going to take a really quick break, and then we're going to hop into an early edition of the Olgi Luis mailbag. We'll be right back.
Olgi Lewis is your neighborhood British bar and cafe located in the Old Giro district of Seoul. Decorated in old English antiques and furniture for a true homely feel, you can enjoy homemade scones, cakes and afternoon tea during the day, and traditional British favorites like beef stew, English ale, and a fine selection of wines at night. Available for private parties or simply an evening out, Olgi Lewis is sure to become your favorite neighborhood pub. Be sure to mention K-League United at the bar during your visit, and you'll get 10% off your bill.
Welcome back to the K-League United podcast. I'm your host, Ryan Walters. And for those of you watching live, I think I need to change the end of the Olgi Luis mailbag because for those listening to the podcast edition, it is the adorable dog that they have at Olgi Luis dressed up in a tuxedo. And every time I'm getting ready to come back on, it just makes me smile and laugh a little bit, which I guess is not a bad way to come back on, but it breaks the focus. Anyway, let's talk about this. We've had a couple of questions come in through the standard means on Twitter, but then also the slightly less common email, and someone even slid into the DM. So let's get started with a question from Osri Furman. Osri had a couple of questions about K1, but we're going to skip those this week because we're only focused on the party that is K-League 2. So this is a question for you, Michael. He said, Seoul Elan's bright start has faded considerably. What gives? And also, should they have kept Sakuta Pasu?
Well, we actually said this we were talking to Seoul Elan fans last night. I miss Kuta Pasu personally. I think he was excellent. He only got like 7 goals in the 27 games. However, the way he passed and moved around the ball, he was strong. He could actually win headers, unlike some other players for the team. But I loved him. And he seemed like a bit of a leader as such because he was an older player. And he actually did a lot of assisting as well as scoring goals. Okay, he's a striker, that was his job, but he set Seoul up a lot. We've had injuries, Jang Young-ho, Ian Jae, Kim Min-gun. And I feel like since one or two of these players have gone, we haven't really found a replacement to fill in. Like, we've slotted players in, but they don't feel comfortable in that position. And now that we've actually lost Jang Young-ho, I think he's a big loss, actually. Really looking forward to hoping to see him come back. It's at a point where it's like, does Seoul have a plan B? Like,
yeah,
we were top of the league when everything was fine, no injuries, nothing wrong, everything, the world was great. Now we've got injuries. What is our plan B? Do we have to look into a summer transfer window to see if we can get anybody else in? Chung Jun-young say not favours as such. Obviously, I said it many times, young players want to play for Chung Jun-young. Maybe we can get a few more players in like that. But we need to go into the transfer market if we think we're going to do something, because any more injuries, Seoul are just going to fold.
Yeah, fair point. And that summer window is going to be very important for both Seoul teams. But again, we'll talk about K1 another time. All right, we had another one come in via the email. This is from Yuli via email. Stadiums looked a bit empty last night. Why are the K-League pushing for Monday night games in K2 when they don't have any fixture conflicts? So yeah, Monday Night Football. Sorry, I can only think of open wide for some soccer whenever I hear that. Anyway, Simpsons, for those that don't know. Yeah, so Monday Night Football. How you feel about that? You were there.
They're a pain to get to. They're a pain
That's
to
for
get
sure.
to. So as I said at the start of the episode, I live in one side of Seoul, and the Buchons, well, it's not Seoul, but it's completely upper side of the city to get to. I finished work at 6 p.m. I was darting through Seoul last night to get there. So I've not missed a Seoul Elan game this season, but what fans have gone, I'll just whack on the TV instead. So that could be a big reason. There wasn't a lot of fans there last night who probably would have been there if it was a Sunday or a Saturday game. Yeah,
I think right now we've got K-League every night other than Thursday, basically, most weeks right now. And it's a lot about TV scheduling and trying to get as many eyes on it as possible. It's good and it's bad. I mean, in a week that you're up for it, you can watch pretty much every team if you're trying to, but then how long can you keep that up before there's burnout? You know, it's a lot, and it's a lot to ask fans to be up for it almost every single night of the week when it's traditionally something that you do on Saturday and Sunday.
Well, that's it as well. And also, maybe the idea is that the baseball here doesn't get played on Monday. So maybe they're looking for the baseball fans to come in and maybe get some more TV eyes on the product itself. I think that's the reason why it's still a thing.
Yeah. And that makes sense. I think it's something that's been a bigger problem in K1, where there is a lot of fixture congestion right now. And we saw that really affecting teams when we had a month straight of double game weeks. The games were getting very dull, to just be honest about it. We were seeing a lot of 0-0s. We were seeing a lot of 1-0s. And it was just very difficult. So K2, on the other hand, I think it is just kind of about, like you say, Michael, getting eyes on the product on a night that there isn't a lot of competition. So the Mondays for K2 doesn't really bother me that much. If it was Saturday, Sunday, Monday for K2, Friday, Saturday, Sunday for K1, I'm fine with that. I love the one-off Friday night game. I love it. Big fan of that, especially because, in the before times, you'd get out of work, you'd get to the stadium just in time, meet up with some friends there. It's a great way to kick off the weekend. I really like that. And then a Monday night game, it's like, well, it's Monday, which is meh, but there's a game on, so.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. Normally, I'm like, I have to work tomorrow, and I get home at like midnight or something. But obviously, I'm off today, so it was actually quite a nice feeling once I arrived there. But yeah, no, I prefer a cheeky Friday night game. Would go down well with me, I think.
That would be quite nice. All right, we got another one that came in that was schedule based. Folks are loving their schedules. This is from Eric via the Instagram DMs. Slid into the DMs. He's saying that as each team plays each other 3 to 4 times a year, should the scheduling be more leaning towards having a break between playing a team in quick succession? Once you play a team once, it's a free-for-all when the others play one another. So you could be playing a team twice in the same month. So, yeah, K2, it's a bit interesting where you could be facing the same team in very quick succession. I mean, we see this in K1 as well, where it feels like Jeonbuk and Ulsan are facing each other every other week towards the end of the season.
Yeah, it's obviously, schedulings are difficult, isn't it? You've got 10 teams in a K2, got 12 teams in the K-League 1. Making sure it all adds up so they're not playing each other in quick succession is difficult. I know that. However, I'll give you an example with Seoul Eland. They played Ansan 2 games ago, and now they're playing Ansan this Saturday. Like, surely you could have spread it out a little bit more. Mm-hmm. It just feels like, I think we've got Busan twice in June and July or something like that as well. I think it's just, if you're playing these teams so quick, fans are just going to go, well, I've just seen them 2 weeks ago. Why'd I watch it again? Obviously, fans who are interested, but as a neutral, they're just like, well, I've just seen that game 2 weeks ago, so I'd rather watch something else. So.
Yeah, fair enough. I mean, it's difficult to keep the intensity of those, well, not even rivalries, just those matchups sometimes up and running when they're happening that frequently. But this is the summer schedule that is K-League. We see a lot of games, a lot of nights of the week. It is starting to calm down a little bit, but again, Michael and I are recording now, Tuesday afternoon, for those that are listening to the podcast, because there are K-League 1 games on later tonight. But that's it. A brief mailbag this week. I think the time of day threw things off a little bit. But thank you for the folks that got those in. And if you'd like to become more involved with the podcast, then you can do so over on our Patreon page, where we had a very big week. Big shout out to new patrons: Jamie McCullumson, Fabio, Mark Finlayson, Catinho. That's Catinho. That's what they're going by on there. Love that. Football Radar. I don't know if that's the company. That's also what they're going by. Gutaguro. I don't know if I said that correctly. And Robert Hardy. We had a lot of folks joining because of our brand new So Rare tiers. So we've just reintroduced the K2 Champion, which is our $5 tier, where you'll get weekly team news, including injuries, suspensions, transfer rumors, and much, much more. And if you want to be a K1 champion, which Michael and I both have our team's hopes set for, hey, if we just had to pay $10 a month to get the Dragons into K1 and champions, I'm paying $10 a month for that. I'm doing that.
Hey, you have to be careful now paying money to get into K-League 1.
Yeah, true. Luckily, we don't stream this live, and I can just delete that. Anyway, for the folks over on Patreon, if you're involved at the $10 tier, then you'll get a weekly predicted starting lineup on top of the injuries and suspensions. And we've also introduced a brand new customized player scouting feature. So if there's somebody on So Rare that you're interested in, you want to know a little bit more about, we are going to dig into one player per month, and we will send back some advanced statistics and our in-person analysis of seeing them play here in Korea. So all of that's available for just $10 a month. And some more good news for patrons. K-League Survivor is back. The COVID break is finished for FC Seoul and Seongnam FC this weekend. They're not playing midweek, but they will be back this weekend, which means that K-Survivor is back, and Michael is still leading the way with all 3 lives, right?
I still got all 3 lives. I feel like I did a power play saying, we should suspend the week because of the COVID breakout. But yeah, I'm still on 3 lives. But I seem to be the only K-Team 2 team that's staying at the top and staying there.
Yeah. Well, now that you've said that, though, you've had your 5-match unbeaten streak, and now the lives are just going to start falling. Yeah. If you're unfamiliar with that, that starts at the $1 tier, and all you need to do is pick a K-League team that won't lose. So we'll see how that goes. Anyway, all that's available and much, much more over on Patreon. And as always, if you'd like to listen to this podcast live, you can do so every Thursday on Football Nation Radio down in Australia. And if you subscribe and leave us a review, 5 stars preferred, on iTunes, Spotify, Google Podcasts, TuneIn Radio, or wherever you download your podcasts, and you'll be entered into this month's K-League Kit contest, which is for a 2017 Gangwon FC keeper kit. It's the ski jump year. We dug into the archives, and we had a Gangwon kit from the year that they were playing with a ski jump behind one of the goals. So if you're new to K-League and unfamiliar with that, that was quite the sight for a little while. But that's everything that's going on. We're going to get out of here because, Michael, I think you've got apartment hunting that you're doing?
Yeah, I'm currently in the midst of moving from one area sold to another, and I've been looking at 1,000,001 apartments, and yeah, it's finding the one that suits me.
That's right. Closer to Jamshil, I would imagine. Oh, no, closer to Mokdong for next year.
Oh, well, it should be close to Mokdong, but yeah, where I'm looking at now, it's 3 stops away from the stadium, so if I choose somewhere high enough, I might have to wake up and have a morning coffee looking at Lowell Park, so...
There you go.
That's the dream, so...
All right, well, for Michael Redmond, I'm Ryan Walters. Thanks so much for watching.
Thank you.
정규성 공격 폭격기 킹 신